I'd like to pass it over to officially pass it over to Izabela.
Thank you very much, Heather, and thank you everyone for being with us today. As Heather mentioned, this is our very first webinar and we are excited to have you with us today. Just give me a second. So today we are going through maybe not so easy times for all of us, you know, with the virus being around and our works being affected. We all have to work from home. Some of us, I guess, depending where you're working, what you're doing, some of us had to stay at home for much longer and wait for the situation to change. What we've learned talking to businesses, talking to professionals around is that it's not easy time. The change affected all of us, and not only personally, but professionally. So we decided to look at giving you some guidance on how to go around it and sharing potential steps that worked for us. So both Heather and I actually worked virtually in the past. So we would like to share some of the knowledge that we feel would be beneficial for you. That being said, if you have any questions, if you have any comments to share, please do so at any time, and Heather will be nicely moderating those activities with us.
I have high expectations for engagement in all of our presentations. So please share on the chat and I'll share it back to Izabela for you.
Wonderful. So the agenda for today is very straightforward. We would like to look at self-leadership, because we've discovered that we are all amazing leaders. We can all do great work, but before we start leading everyone else, we have to start with ourselves. So we'll look at potential activities that you can review that are available around, and then we'll go deeper into what tools and ways you can utilize to inspire that confidence, innovation, and team collaboration. And overall, what's most important nowadays in a good remote culture? Is it easy to have an effective culture in a normal face-to-face work? Maybe it's still a work in progress. So we'll try to cover some of those topics and share the best practices with you. I'm sure you've seen this quote before. Go out and lead the world before, but never forget by leading yourself first at home. You can't lead the environment if you can't lead yourself in it. So I want you to focus on it because this is a very powerful quote. We've learned that whenever you will want to develop others, you have to start with yourself first. We simply can't help others if we forget to take care of ourselves in the first place, and that's just impossible. You know, it's you can try to tell people what to do, you can encourage, engage, you can do whatever is out there, but it all starts with you. If today, and I trust that you are all well and healthy, and I hope that, you know, the virus will never even get to you. But if today you will feel stressed and overwhelmed and affected by everything that's going around, how can you motivate your team, your family, maybe your kids, your colleagues? How can you help others without starting with yourself? Okay, so you get the best out of others when you get the best out of yourself. Heather, do we have any questions coming up so far?
Not so far, but I'm sure they're just getting warmed up with some questions for you, Izabela. because I'm really now just reflecting on what my own leadership and what I need at this time. Just taking care of my regular routine seems to be enough for me, let alone to lead projects and to lead others. So just getting a good routine at home has been a challenge for me.
I understand, definitely. And it's not easy task for any of us. And I actually have one of the question here for you. How difficult is it for you to stay focused? You know, how difficult is it for you to get up in the morning, get dressed, maybe have good breakfast in the morning, and then get ready to work or do any other activities you have? We actually shared this question right at the beginning of the chat. If you have a quick 30 seconds, you can just scroll up to the beginning of the chat, and if you could just do the survey for us, this would be wonderful, so we can just see the overview, what people are thinking about it. So we know it's not easy to focus. We know that there are many things that are worth implementing. We know that we've just discovered that if we want to develop our team, we have to start with ourselves. So I would like you to take a moment to look at the picture in front of you about 4 pillars of self-leadership. So this is a very powerful tool in my mind, and it actually shows the journey that you can use when you will try to learn about how to be a good leader, how to support others while helping yourself. And
Isabella, before
yes?
you just continue, I'm getting some feedback from your participants that they did find your link for your poll, but that it's not allowing, that it's not clickable. So perhaps we move to the chat for the rest of the seminar or the workshop, and that will be one of our takeaways from today. So thanks everybody. So if you could just use your chat function, I'll kind of collect some themes and ideas and pass those on to Isabella as she moves through her presentation. Okay, I hope there's a big nod from the class right now.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for moderating it. It's a lesson learned for all of us. So going back to our pillars of self-leadership, I want you to start with foundations. You have to start with understanding who you are. Knowing who you are allows you to move deeper into helping others. So think about what are your beliefs, what's important to you, what are your goals. So if you have being a leader, if you have team of people working for you, around you, you can even consider the aspect of being with a family. What is important to you on a day-to-day life? So write those points, think about those goals that you're willing to accomplish, think about the short and long-term goals, and then move it to the next stage is what do you want to do with it and how actually are you affected by those goals. So what are the behaviors that you should consider when you implement any of those goals? What are the motivations that are driving you to keep going, you know, to wake up every morning and get ready and do whatever it is that is on your agenda. So going to
One second, Isabella, could you just tell us where you found these pillars? What reference you're making these from?
I cannot recall it right away, but I will actually follow up by email, and I can share it with by email with everyone else. So there was a good foundation on Google from different training corporations, kind of anything when you search about self-leadership, there are different ideas around what's beneficial to consider when you want to improve your leadership capabilities, and this was one of them. Okay. So the next stage is once you understand your motivators, you understand your behaviors, you want to then think about the learning gap, think about what's missing in your day-to-day role, what's missing in a perspective of your long-term goals and achievements you want to accomplish. So try to develop learning points, identify those points that are crucial for you to move forward, and then effectively set up a learning plan. I'm sure, and Heather can confirm on that, we have so much time right now, I hope we do, with flexibility working from home. This could be the best time for all of us to develop our skills, to utilize all different articles, LinkedIn learnings, YouTube learnings, reading books, because this is the time when we can truly look at our purpose, look at ourselves, and develop ways to work with people around. Because
Hi, Isabella. Yeah, when we talk about LinkedIn Learning, one of the things that the CTS team did was move to MS Teams really early, and it had always been on the agenda to do, but we of course were busy doing our work, so we didn't have time to do that. So we moved there, so of course I don't ever want to miss a conversation or a check-in point. So I spent quite a bit of time with LinkedIn Learning, and the cool thing about LinkedIn Learning is that you can stop and start it, which I needed to, as well as once you complete it, you get a chance to have a badge which goes onto your LinkedIn profile, so everybody can see that you're having this great learning plan. So for me, that it's really dragging me to do have some goals that I'm achieving goals that I wasn't being able to do in the regular office, but now having time to do that. Plus it's demanding my attention because I had to learn how to set up how to send a meeting. So I go back and do some LinkedIn Learning, the planner, those kinds of things. So I would recommend, if you haven't enjoyed that yet, LinkedIn Learning, definitely awesome. Plus you get a badge. It's really cool.
You do, but on top of that, thank you very much, Heather, for reminding me. Fanshawe CTS, we actually do all different online training. We provide training solutions to businesses for different purposes. And we have some programs available around Microsoft 365, about Microsoft 10. If there are any things that you feel that your organization could benefit from, reach out to Heather or I, and we'll be definitely happy to help you guys. But let's get back to our 4 pillars. So you understand, you have your plan in action, and the next stage is using what you know. And this is the most powerful time, because you can use this plan to build a successful habit to support those pillars and create the environment for success. So this is the time when you can evaluate your own behaviors, your own learning, your own challenges, barriers, and bring it to the people that you're working with, and try to understand their behaviors, motivations, plan, work with them on those perspectives, so then you can grow together. It's a very powerful opportunity for all of us to learn from one another. So we'll go to the next. Okay. So you are, once completing the 4 pillars, you work with your people, you try to implement effective strategies. The next stage would be to implement some smart ways to keep your team motivated. And I like the quote here: employees need to feel heard, understood, recognized, and appreciated, especially during these challenging times. What's more important that from you personally? What's more important than knowing that you have someone out there that's actually willing to listen and support? So the smart ways to keep people motivated start with the foundation of communication. From the business perspective, from leadership perspective, what happened yesterday It happened. It affected today. Will tomorrow will be the same? We have no idea. Tomorrow could be totally different. So we definitely have to be prepared for that change. We have to be prepared for that innovation and creativity and willingness to learn from one another. But in order to do so, we have to communicate transparently about that situation. Being a leader, it's kind of everyone expects from us to share all the knowledge. But it's okay if you don't know what tomorrow will bring. It's okay if you just don't know the changes that will happen. Just be honest about it. But just try to, share with others those aspects around what's happening, what decisions have been made. Especially, and that's from my personal experience, share your reasons behind, share the vision with others as well.
Izabela, I think that this is a good time to use the word vulnerable. Is that all of a sudden where you may have been the expert, whether you're in the leadership of a project or the leadership of people, is that you want to be strong and show that. Well, there's been times, especially on this Microsoft Teams platform, that I have not been. I couldn't schedule a meeting, and that's like 50% of what I do is schedule meetings. I had to ask another team member who has come out of kind of the wings as the expert on the teams, and she's just a great learner. She's created some really great training sheets with little screenshots, which is perfect for me in my Gen Z way or Gen X way. Super awesome. But if I hadn't have reached out on that Tuesday afternoon, freaking out because I couldn't create a meeting, and I had to be vulnerable to ask. And when I did, I received tenfold. So I think as a leader, there's all of the idea of showing strength, but there's also that idea of showing vulnerability, that there are some experts in your world and that there is going to be people to also share some of your fears, some of your struggles and your anxiety around what's going on. So to reach out, that takes a lot of courage. And I think that that's important as we talk about communicating with our teams and with people in this time. We need to show our vulnerability in a good way as well.
Perfect point. Thank you very much, Heather. Just adding on top of that, it actually perfectly fits to our next point, which we have celebrating large and small wins. Together, we can definitely get stronger. And what we've realized as CTS is we've achieved so much more by working with one another. We've actually discovered that few individuals have passions and capabilities of developing all different processes and communication aspects that we would never even discover otherwise. And definitely, as a leader, praising those small wins and supporting people growth makes a big difference. But going back to all of that, just being honest, just being honest with what's our plan, what's happening right now, what could be tomorrow, and just trying to develop the trust. It's nothing important than that. Do we have any questions coming up from the audience?
No, they must be doing some reflection. That's what I'm thinking. So if there's any questions or any feedback or any great shared experiences, we'd be happy to connect with you.
Wonderful. So the next point I really want you to think about is everything else that you could do to inspire that confidence, innovation, and team collaboration in your team or at your home with people around you. And what I've recently learned, and I've never even heard that word before, virtual water coolers. I'm sure you've seen it before. When you are in day-to-day work, once in a while you have someone passing by your office and you talk about everything and nothing. It's just even for a minute talk. But thanks to that, you are able to develop this trust. Thanks to those small talks, you are able to get to know someone and rely on that person for the future. When a bigger project comes to mind, you know exactly who you can reach out to. Now, when we work remotely, it's harder to do so. You don't have anyone just passing by your office. All you have is basically a phone call, maybe video call, or whichever platform you use for communication. So what I've seen in many businesses and what I've seen as a great success here at CTS as well is we actually have lunch and learns once in a while. So different people have different tactics. Everyone is different as well. But I even had yesterday a call with one of our colleagues here, Mark. We went out for a call. We went out for a walk while talking together on everything and nothing, just trying to get to know one another and building the trust while effectively moving deeper into the business projects. And I feel that's a very powerful tool. I've seen businesses every Monday. There is a video on YouTube from Simon Sinek. What they actually implemented is every Monday they get together on a Zoom call for about 70 minutes, and they do group hug. They do praising one another. They kind of share their past learning. They share the challenges that they had when they work from home, and it's literally this time is scheduled just for those small talks, because they've discovered that many people from their team never worked remotely. And this was the biggest challenge for many of their individuals. So while implementing those small talks, virtual water coolers allows everyone to take away this anxiety and stress, and it helps them to develop this trust. It's very powerful, and I truly recommend to all of you to consider what tactics you could use to develop that trust with your audience, with your people.
So Izabela, well, you've been telling us about that. People have been sharing. I love it. They woke up. It's awesome. And we're sharing in the chat right now different platforms that we're finding it effective. And it seems that some of our Fanshawe colleagues are also in agreement that Teams is amazing. We know Fanshawe Global is using that. So other people are using Slack. There's a conversation about Yammer. And so maybe, yeah, just touching on the different platforms that people are using, Zoom, WebEx, all kinds of different platforms out there.
Very good. I can see a total variety of tools. I just wanted to share before we go to this one, with the point, have a purpose for every tool and process. Whichever tool you use, make sure it relates to your culture. So if in the past, your environment was very open and kind of engaging and easy to access, and you have this open door policy, the tool that you will implement or try to develop, make sure it kind of relates to that culture, because it's definitely going to be easier for people to carry on. I've seen, Microsoft Teams, I'm still learning, but it's a very powerful tool that, as you can see, you can do webinars with, you can do all different forms, sharing surveys, questionnaires, you can even do project management through Microsoft Teams. And I'm like, wow, totally amazed by this, but it takes a lot of learning for sure. I definitely seen, previously I often used WhatsApp conversations, especially for those more kind of easy talks if we wanted to touch base. And I think I've mentioned this to Heather earlier today. It's all about building this trust. So you go out for a walk once in a while, and maybe you've seen, I don't know, a new animal you've never seen before, or a beautiful tree. You just take a picture and you share it to the group. It starts with small steps. With Fanshawe CTS, we have a group that we talk about baking cakes and cooking soups and so on. So we just it's about doing those icebreakers. So then eventually we can go further to the bigger options and working on the projects together, because then we have that trust. But what I want you to know, whichever platform you use, be mindful of others. So we've learned that ourselves. I could be great at technology. I shouldn't say that because my link wasn't working perfectly well this morning, but I could be great at the technology. But what we have to be aware of, that everyone comes from different generation, different culture, different ways of working with technology. Like we said, many people never worked in virtual world before. So when you implement a new tool or when you put a new project in place, in whichever platform you use, make sure that you will take into consideration people around you, because only then you can develop something greater, and only then you can come up with a solution that could be a fit, that could fit the purpose for everyone else and the processes that are relevant for your business.
Izabela, that's a great segue into that we should just check here. There's a good comparison. There's one of our participants said the word field chat. That's one that I haven't heard about before, so I'm going to go check it out. It's for multiple text message conversations. Wow. So I'm kind of curious about that. There's also been a call on the side, the chat, into what kind of tools we're using for project management. So I did share that CTS is starting to use the planner within our MS Teams. So that seems to be our tool of choice, but would love to hear from others. And I know you're going to be surprised, because during our practice run, I threw out a question about Simon Sinek, and now people are all excited to it because you got his name earlier. So I think that this would be a great time for you to share a little bit about who he is, and maybe some recommendations. I know that I've just recently finished Leaders Eat Last. Always been a fan of Start With Why, but I know that you have some other ideas about him as well.
So that's a very good point, and thank you very much for bringing this up. Simon Sinek, if you haven't heard about him, if you haven't followed him, make sure you do, because he shares a very powerful stories all over social media, and I actually follow him on Facebook and YouTube, and I've watched a very powerful video today about innovation. Someone told me recently that today is the worst time to think about innovation, because we are in such a deep hole that we should not even think about it. And I hope you agree with me, especially after watching this video. Simon actually shares innovation starts with everything around us. So there is a problem, and today we all have a problem that we do not know how to overcome. You know, for CTS, we have trainings available, for solutions available to all businesses around. So we had to come up with ideas to carry on helping everyone around. And, you know, thanks to that, thanks to actually a possibility of rethinking and working with other colleagues from our team, we came up with webinar series. So that's a true innovation process. And Simon has a really good book that Heather mentioned, and I have it written here, Leaders Eat Last. So this could be a good solution for you to review, especially when you're trying to understand your own leadership approach, when you try to learn from yourself and then go deeper when you decide to lead others. Because in this book he states about why some teams pull together and others don't. So it's about for those who want to feel that they and their team work matter, and for those who want to inspire others to feel the same. So it's a very, very powerful book, worth reviewing if you're just in the mind of leadership development as well.
So our participants are very big fans of Simon's. We're getting, Bill has shared that he just finished the Infinite game, which is the newest one. Thanks for sharing that, Bill. Jennifer has actually provided a book club link, which I think is a super fabulous virtual idea. He's currently running a book club online. His hair's going crazy too. If anybody notices, he's wearing a ball cap now. I probably will have a ball cap next week. So if you check in the chat, there's some really great engagement over the inspiration that Simon is giving to some of our participants today.
Very nice. Thank you very much for sharing. I will definitely check it out because, like we said before, we are all about self-leadership and learning from one another. And there are many amazing leaders out there that we can learn from to help not only ourselves, but our business and people around you. So the next point I wanted to touch base on is all of this just relates to all that we talked before. You know, culture, a good culture is important on a day-to-day basis. When you are in the office environment, when you think about the organization, good culture is the powerful aspect that brings people into your organization. So it's an ongoing process of rethinking, rejuggling, and trying to develop as effective as possible. Now, we all moved to virtual, remote culture, and I'm sure you agree, now it's the time to even rethink, redesign, and pay more attention to the overall culture in a remote work environment. And that's what we've said before, you know, make sure you choose tools that actually match your culture and foster communication. Whichever tools, if you use Slack, MS Teams, if you use Zoom for team meetings, you know, WhatsApp, or whichever other platforms are there, make sure they are all best for your culture, organizational fit. Keep the communication open. We always say in the office space, open door policy. Do you actually have an open door policy right now? If your colleague, if your employee would like to come to you with any question, just to talk about anything, something and nothing, how do you allow that open door policy? Do you have a time assigned for people to always know they can just call you and that's it? Implement something in place that people will still feel safe to come to you, even if you're just working from home. Implement team building into your culture. I've actually shared a document on somewhere at the beginning, but don't worry, don't look for this right now. I will follow up by email with some of the resources I've discovered yesterday. And one of the resources I feel is very beneficial is about ice-breaking activities for remote workplace. So they share ways to go away and talk with your team members, games to implement. We've seen at CTS today, one of our colleagues shared a bingo game with all of us. So it's something to take part of. Once in a while, we do forms, kind of a quiz, you know, do you prefer Coke or Pepsi? Do you prefer cake or soup or whatever else? It's something, icebreakers are very important for people to feel safe.
Hey, Izabela, it sounds like that Corporate Training Solutions is really just about the food.
I'm sorry, I love food, but that's okay. I'm all in it, so I hope you do as well. So we are almost at the end. The most important aspects to build a good remote culture. Yes?
I would like to use one of the quotes on the side here because we're getting some good agreement, like 100%, is from Sarah. I think that at this time is going to be to force many of us to rethink how we work and conduct our daily work lives. I think we're going to come out of this better. I don't feel that this is a negative time. It's just a reset. I think we need to focus on the positive. Adversity leads to opportunity.
I love this, and especially the aspect we need to focus on the positive. I've seen crazy amount of creativity, innovation, and collaboration across all different businesses. It's time to rethink what worked well for us in the past and what can we do about it now, because tomorrow will definitely be different than yesterday. So build the sense of shared leadership amongst your people, build the leadership in a sense that allows them to be creative, allows them to come up with all different kind of solutions, not being afraid of, I shouldn't even think about it. Praise one another and focus on the positive, because there are many things that will come up from today's situation. Definitely. So what's the most important when working remotely, when developing a self and team around you? Communication. Communication is the key, and it doesn't matter if it's through one platform or another. It has to be open. It has to be often. So you have to think about how approachable are you for your colleagues? How open are you when they come to you with any trouble, problem, solution, success, or even a time to talk about their dog or family members, kids, wherever else? Everyone is different. We have introverters and extroverters, and be mindful of those that are normally quiet, because they may have a lot to share. They just don't know how. So try to bring them in and show them the honesty, show them that you are transparent and that you are there to support one another. Oh my gosh. So we are actually at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Heather, just before we go to the next stage, I just wanted to say, if you have any feedback about this webinar, please share this either with a follow-up email or chat, wherever else. We will have webinars week by week. We have different series. Next week's series is about cultivating the growth mindset in a remote workplace. We have all different leadership in action seminars, so make sure to follow us on social media. Stay tuned, because there will be many other amazing activities coming up from this.
So Izabela, the growth mindset actually came up in the chat. So that's awesome that you led into that. So we could definitely take some feedback there. You have a participant by the name of Rhonda who would like you to go back to slide 10, do a quick review. And she says, please.
Please. Okay, this one?
She's saying yes. So communication is key. Mm-hmm. So I think that this is awesome. This is a real positive thing on open, often, honest, transparent, authentic. Now, what happens? Do you have any suggestions for us from your experience about what if you're not getting that communication from your people, or you've sent it out there and you get the big Bueller, anyone kind of thing? So what's a good strategy to deal with maybe it could be an introvert situation, it could be that they are suffering. So can you maybe talk a little bit about what happens if it's not going well? Got any suggestions?
That's a very good question, and what I can say from my personal perspective, we are all different, and it goes back to the very first slide about our 4 pillars of self-leadership. Think about who the other person is, what are their motivators, challenges, behaviors. Start small. You have to build that trust now more than ever before. So what I recommend is, rather than jumping and starting to go straight to the business. Share, even send a small message once in a while, hey, how was your day? What challenges you faced today? Here is what I've seen. Here are my experiences. Do you have any recommendations? Slowly build the trust. Pick up the phone once in a while. I have virtual coffees. I love coffees. I just do them virtually right now. Do the same, but have time just to talk about everything and nothing. Have time to talk about day-to-day life. So this will allow you to build the trust, to get to know another person, because only then you can start having this input from individuals that are normally quiet. Do we have any other questions?
I think that everyone's got their answers there. I think that I heard here that it's awesome. Really great that you have an awesome presentation going on here. So,
okay, we have about 10 more minutes. So if there are any specific questions you have, feel free to ask. If you feel strong enough, you can even release your camera and microphone, and you can actually go live with us, so we can all see you. That's totally up to you.
Actually, Izabela, somebody, Melanie, would you like to release your mic so you can have a chance to ask a question? I think you were asking if you wanted to add something.
Yeah, hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Nice to meet you.
So I was just referring to the question that the person was asking regarding what if it's not going well. I think it's also important to challenge what that means for you and what that means for the person that you're trying to get to open up. So I think in this time, we all need to realize that we're all different and our needs are different, right? So maybe for me, I'm super outgoing. I'm very open. If I have a problem or a question or an issue, I'll share with you. Whereas for somebody else, maybe they need a week to marinate on the thought, and then maybe they'll send you an email, or maybe you'll know that they've received the information because they've changed the way they interact with other group members, right? So like it going well, like I think we really need to challenge our thinking because that's so, it should be fluid. There shouldn't be an end goal, right? So we're trying to reach out to our coworkers right now, our team members and whatnot, and we want them to be more engaged. I think what's important and what Izabela has been sharing is that, being open, being honest, being transparent, and having the conversation often. Maybe you have to have that conversation 10 times before the person feels like they can trust you and that they'll share their opinion or their feedback or their thoughts, or, or maybe just hearing you talk about it is enough to make them feel supported and loved and, yeah.
Exactly. That's a very good point. Thank you very much for sharing. What I can just add to that is what I realized now, excuse me, what I've realized right now is people have more and more tasks and more activities and projects when they work remotely. So it could be if someone is ignoring you, the reason could be just because they are too busy, and they will get back to you, but it may take a couple of days before they will get to that point. So be mindful of that as well, because we all trying to rejuggle all those emails and all different streams of communications. That could be another reason as well. So just trying to kind of learn and maybe even see what would work in the future. Like I said, what works today could be different tomorrow. So do we have any other questions? Maybe someone else would like to share their ideas, points of view, or ask a question?
You've got many people are off to the next meeting, because I know how that feels from one meeting to the next. And so we're getting some feedback. They're saying thank you. There's a lot of good points, and thank you for sharing. Thanks, Melanie, for that. That was great feedback. So your people are going to their next meeting, Izabela. So I don't know if we've got anything to wrap up, maybe moving forward. And of course, we're going to follow up with the slides and the recording and everything there.
Of course, so you will get a follow-up email with the recording. You will get a few resources that I've collated recently as well, so we'll share with you. And then what I would ask you to do is, if you have any ideas for future webinars or ways to develop this series more effectively, we are open for feedback. We can only learn from one another, so please share your experience, your knowledge, your ideas, and we'll just try to utilize them throughout the process. It was an absolute pleasure having you here today. Thank you very much, and please stay healthy and well.
Great to meet everybody. Thanks a lot for letting me have my first opportunity of being a moderator, and I hope you all have a fabulously strong week and a great long weekend. Make sure you do turn off your screen. I actually have a big post-it note I'm going to say out of office and try to stay away from this over the weekend. So take care, everyone. Thanks for inviting us in today.
Thank you. Bye-bye.